All right, welcome back to Terrible at Fishing, and today we're going to talk about cold water fishing. So stay tuned. Welcome back. So, I'm in my new studio. Built a brand new one this week. I created walls in my basement. I sheetrocked it, pegboarded it, painted it, carpeted it. New, new everything. New camera. New, well, pretty much new everything. So, except for the computer. In my lungs. So, we're going to talk a little bit about cold water fishing because DHT, Dark Horse Tackle, which is right here, use that code, Rufino Pro 10, for your first 10% off your first month's box. But they sent Andrew Hayes, which is the host of Tackle Talk podcast, which is the number one podcast for fishermen on the waves nowadays. He picked everything in this box. And I've added something to it because he didn't really give a trailer with this jig. But the rest of it nails it. Really does. Now, my neck of the woods here in Oregon, down in Klamath Falls, the lakes are freezing over right now. Without ice, this is a good bet. Okay, we'll talk about ice fishing very soon, because given another month of this freeze that we have, ice will be thick enough and I'll be out there ice fishing. But before it started freezing, it was 45 degrees or so, the water was, and that's pretty cold for bass. It really is. Not bad for trout, though, and this is, if you live in Oregon, Oregon is a trout state. So being a bass fisherman in a trout state, it's kind of tough for me. So, first things first, all right? Bass, when the water's cold, they become very lethargic. Their metabolism slows down, they slow down. And when you fish bass in cold, cold water, you've got to be patient. You just got to be patient. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's not like the summer where you're just throwing out a topwater and getting a hit every other cast. Because that's what I deal with. I've caught over 1,000 bass this year in just one lake. And most of it, 80% of them were probably topwater. Yeah, maybe 85%. A lot of topwater. So, in this month's Dark Horse Tackle box, we got, I do have one for, an unboxing of it. But today we're going to talk a little bit about how to use these things really well. So, this right here is a beautiful, beautiful green pumpkin jig, weedless. And it's got a nice flat bottom to it. I don't know if you guys, it'll stand up. And you really want this, because with this one, you're going to fish it really, really slow. Now, what I would put on it is a creature bait, something like this. And I really do like this power bait. It's heavily scented, and this scent works. The power bait scent works. I mean, you can just sit it down on the bottom of the lake and they'll just jump on it. I mean, you almost don't even have to move it, but it stinks. So, when you put it on it, and this has a decent, a nice bait keeper on it. So when you put it on it, actually, this is actually a little long for this, so don't be afraid to cut your baits. So, you know, take it and tear off part of it or cut it and get it to where it situates itself. So in this case, see that? That's the way you want it to look. But notice how much I'm going to cut off. So I'm going to cut, you know, 2 legs off of this thing, almost, just behind, just about at the 2 leg. So that's what I'm going to cut off right here. And when you put it on there, what you're going to do is just drop it down to the bottom of the lake and crawl it. Just crawl it. Okay? I mean, you've got to go really slow. And you just got to stop. Don't think you've got to be reeling in all the time, because you don't. You know, you can spend all day just reeling in, I guess, if that's what you want to do. But the whole point of throwing something out there is to catch something. And this time of year, in the cold, cold water, you've got to put it on the bottom and just let it sit there. Just let it sit there for a couple minutes. And then just move it just a little bit. You know, maybe one turn of your handle is going to give you about 30 inches, all right? Give or take on your ratio. You know, 25 to 30 inches of movement. So just one turn. And do it really, really slow. Maybe even a little couple jerks. You know, and just let it sit there for a few more minutes. And a few more minutes, in just 3 minutes, is a lifetime. Okay, it's just a lifetime for a fisherman. And then maybe another turn of that handle. So you're going to cast this thing way out there. You're going to hit your spot, and you're just going to let it sit. Now, the beautiful thing about this power bait is it is heavily scented. You know, they claim fish hold on 18 times longer. Well, how do they measure that? I mean, give me a break. I mean, some fish bite like that, so 18 times is like that. So I guess if it does it that way, it does give you a chance to set the hook. So use a weedless skirted jig and put a creature bait on it, but just have it hang out of it just a little bit and go very, very slow. I mean, think about this. I'm going to do something. So I'm going to throw it out there and let it sink, and now I've got to let it sit for, let's say, 30 seconds. Watch. It's going now. That's 30 seconds. Now imagine quintupling that. Okay? You just got to be patient in cold, cold water. For one thing, the bass are going to be deep. So you're not going to be fishing the shallows, not on bass, because the water's too cold up front. Remember, the lakes and everything in my area, they did an inversion. So all the warm water that was on top is now on the bottom. It's not that it's warm, but it's warmer than the top because the top is ice right now. So sort of a visual of what happened. So now the bass are really, really deep. So let this sink all the way down and wait. Now, the neat thing too is that I do have something on my my kayak, also besides the fish finder, called a hydro wave. Now, hydro waves emit bass sounds, feeding sounds. What that does, if you have a hydro wave, it does allow them, it does get them excited. And what I've noticed on my hydro wave, and I've said this on my other videos, is that it creates activity. So now you're able to see the bass, because right now they're sitting down in the grass or on the bottom of the lake. Usually, they might be in the rocks. You know, if there's a rocky bottom lake or something, because that holds heat better as rocks. But they're just sitting still, so your fish finder's not catching them. They just think it's just another plant or rock. Have a hydro wave, they start to move. And now your fish finder sees them. And now you know where to throw your bait. Not a bad thing to have, actually. Especially, you know, in warmer water, you really don't need a hydro wave, in my opinion. But in colder water, the hydro wave works really well. It does wake them up. Okay, so that is a weedless jig, skirted jig. These are really good. Put a creature bait, extend it out, fish it slow. Slow. This bait is from Hoot Jigs. Hoot Jigs. I think this is the 19-year-old that makes these. He was 19 years old. Pretty amazing. So, here's a big Joshy. So, this is a swim jig. Now, with the swim jig, having it on a rig, a sled rig, you can see the head on that, just sort of slide, you know, allows it, and then it's got a keeper on it. So again, you don't want to go big. I'll just tell you, you want to keep your baits in shallow, in cold water, fairly small. They're not hitting big jigs. Okay, these, remember, they really want you to just do this and drop it in their mouth. Oh, that's pretty much how it's going to work. They sleeping. So you put a swim jig on that rig. And again, what you're going to do is that you're going to creep this thing over the bottom, just above bottom, really slow. Now, the nice thing is this got a really good paddle tail on it. This is a shad color, so it's just going to swim. If there's anything I can teach you about cold water fishing, going slow, methodically, because one thing, you're not going to see all the bass on your fish finder. Unless you got a hydro wave, you're not going to see them. All right? And they're sleeping. They're just conserving their energy. This time of year is pretty good because they're fat. They have fattened themselves up for this winter season, you know, for the cold water. So next is a metal bladed jig. Now, the neat thing about this jig is that it's not lead. There's no lead in it. So, but the bladed jigs are like a lipless crank. It's exactly what they are. So, and then what you do, these things have great action. These things do this. So this is one of the few that you're actually going to work relatively quickly. So, but you're going to let it sink. And then, and you're not going to do it real fast, but you're going to do it sort of medium slow. And this thing still vibrates really, really, really quick. So medium slow. That's a metal jig. Metal jigs are fantastic. These bladed jigs are fantastic in cold water conditions. Ask anybody. So they're very good. Okay, last but not least is going to be a jerk bait. All right. the cool thing about, I mean, when you think about a jerk bait, what was the first thing in it? The first word is jerk. That's not saying that we are. No. This is how you work a jerk bait. Now, they don't dive deep, but maybe, with the rattling and with the action, you can get bass to come up and hear it and then see it and grab it. But a jerk bait, again, you want to go sort of a shad color. And when you jerk it like this, let it sit, jerk it. It's going to go that way and 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 that way. And you're going to make that noise. But you're going to let it sit. Because they're slow sinkers. These are slow sinkers. So when you hit it, sinks. Sinks. That sound may get a bass to bite. The only thing with jerk baits that I found is that when bass do bite them, and they do bite them, they bite them hard. And there's 3 hooks on this thing. It's really hard to get them out of a bass. I mean, you can do it slowly and methodically, and work. I do have a video in my Not Anymore series on how to remove a hook. But my most problematic lure to get hooks out of a bass are jerk baits, because typically they got 3 treble hooks that are fairly small, and these things, they swallow them. So sometimes you're just trying to get all 3 hooks out of the throat of a bass. So that's my only drawback to them. I mean, they do a great job, don't get me wrong. Very few other baits do I have that problem with, but and you want to catch them good. This will catch them good. But all those balls in it, all those little ball bearings in it are really good. Now this one's really neat because it's got, I don't know if you see this, but it's the ball bearings. You can't really see through it, can you? All right, there's a reservoir here, and then they come up and over and down. Now the reason for that is that when I'm casting, this is called a weight transfer system. And the weight transfers back here, and I can cast it farther. And then when it lands, the ball bearings go into a chamber here. They travel the length, and they go into the chamber, and they still have a really good sound to it. And the head has a big and a small ball in it. So that's really my rattle. But my weight transfer bearings actually are sitting in a new chamber. Very cool. This is a very good bait. Really good bait. Well designed, good bait. So that's really cold water fishing for you, for bass. Now, in a month, ice fishing. One of my favorite things to do is ice fish. I know it sounds weird, but you're going to see a lot of videos this year on this season on ice fishing. You're going to see me out on the lake. You're thinking, Mike, how do you just sit on the ice and fish? That's right. Because a 7-inch hole in the ice is like a vending machine. You just put it in there, drop your line in there, and start pulling them up. It just keeps vending. How can you beat that? All year long we hunt and search for fish in a lake or a river or whatever. And when it's ice fishing, they come to you. It's awesome. And having a good fish finder too allows you to fish via video game. You'll see me do it because I'll see my bait go down, and then I'll see fish come up. It becomes redder and redder. Then it's bright red, and I know they're about to hit. And the reason ice fishing rods are so tiny is that they hit softly. And so you have to have a strike indicator. We'll talk about that later. I get off on it. So anyway, guys, take care. Gals, take care. Please like, subscribe. This week we will be doing the 500 giveaway, and we'll have a great time doing that. I did get my books in for. So let's grab them. Phoenix and Orion. All right, so Phoenix Rising, Orion Rising. So we will be doing a signed autograph giveaway of these two books. These are the first two books in a trilogy, a sci-fi trilogy that I write. And the third one is progressing. So I want you guys, in the next month or so, middle of December, maybe it'd be fun to do a December one. We'll do a December giveaway of signed copies of these two books. And I think you guys will have a great time with them. I mean, I had such a fun time writing. I enjoy writing these books. And it's just a fun space adventure. I mean, really is. Lots of planets, lots of alien worlds. We've got space battles, land battles, underwater battles, battles, hand to hand. They're fun. They're a lot of fun. So I want you guys hit the notification bar too below, and as I put more videos out, go to my live videos. You'll see how I made this room. I've been all this week. I've done live broadcasts on this room, and I made the walls. When I framed it and sheetrocked it and painted it and carpeted it, and anyway, it's just turned out really good. This is a drop-down green screen. It's like a movie screen, projector screen, which is great. New desk. I've had that rack, but it's extra. But you guys have never seen one in here. So I want to thank you guys so very, very much for subscribing to the channel, and I will see you guys, hard or soft water, out on the water. Take care, everybody.